We're going to be going over and reviewing today something that we've already been talking about for the past couple days, and that's one, adding and subtracting fractions, and secondly, the fact that you cannot add or subtract fractions unless the fractions have the same denominator. Because remember, the denominator is telling you the size of the fraction. So if we take a look at this example here, okay, so we have 3/7 and 2/3. So if we can't do it, then how do we find the common denominator? So if we look here, here's step one. Find the LCM or least common multiple of both denominators. So my denominators are 3 and 7. So I have 3/7 and 2/3. So what I need to do is find the LCM for 3/7 and 2/3. So I'm going to go ahead and list my multiples for 7, and then I'm going to list my multiples for 3. Multiples of 7, obviously, they start with 7. And so my next multiple of 7 is going to be 14, because 7 times 2 is 14, 21, 28. I usually like to do a few of each number instead of listing a bunch for one number until I find one that's the same. So now I'm going to list a few for 3. So it's going to start with 3, 6, 9, 12. Oh, I'm going to need some more space. 15 should be next, right? Yep, 15, 18, still not there. 20, oops, 21, 20. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. All right, so now I've got something. So if I look at my multiples, I'll notice that the first number they share is 21. Okay? Now remember, find the smallest number they share because that's going to make your life easier later. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go over here. I'm going to have to change both my fractions so that they have a denominator of 21. So this is going to change so that it has a denominator of 21. And this is going to change so that it has a denominator of 21. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I have to change the fraction. Now remember, there's a rule, okay? So step 2 says change both fractions using, oh, I need to fix that, okay? Change both fractions using the LCM you found above. We call that the least common denominator. So what that means is when I change fractions, remember, whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I can't just change the denominator when I change a fraction. I have to change both numbers. So what that means is I think, well, what did I multiply 7 by to get 21? Because we can only change fractions by multiplying or dividing. So I have to multiply 7 times 3 to get 21. So if I multiply the bottom by 3, I must also multiply the top by 3. And so my new numerator is going to be 9. So 3/7 and 9/21 are the same thing. So down here, I'm going to look. It's going to be different because 3 times 3 doesn't equal 21. So 3 times what equals 21? 3 times, oh look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 times 7. So if I multiply 3 times 7 in the denominator, I have to also multiply the numerator times 7. So now my numerator is going to be 14. So I have 9/21 and 14/21. So now we're going to have 9/21 plus 14/21, and we're going to add them together. Now remember, you do not add the denominators. The denominators stay the same all the way through, which is why we had to change them. Okay, if we were going to add them together, we wouldn't have to change them. So that's telling us the size of the piece. So the piece is a 21th big, okay? Now we have 9/21 and we have 14/21, which is actually going to equal 23/21, okay? This number is bigger than the bottom number, and that can happen. We're not going to worry about that right yet, okay? But we'll deal with that later. Normally you can't let it stay that way, but for our purposes, we're going to leave it right now because we're just worrying about the changing of the denominators and the adding. Make sure you watch your signs because you might have to subtract instead of add. And some people get questions wrong, not because they don't know what to do, but because they're adding instead of subtracting or subtracting instead of adding. So we're going to be doing both today. So make sure you check your signs. Okay, so if we check our signs, this time we're going to be subtracting. However, even though we're subtracting, our process is still going to remain the same. So we're still going to start out by listing the denominators. Well, first we check the denominators, because if they're the same, we don't have to do anything. They're not the same, so we need to list our multiples for each denominator. So let's start with 6, 12, 18, 24. Oops, let's get them all on the same line. 6, 12, 18, 24. I probably could stop around here. I only want to do a few. So let's do a few now for 4. So we're going to start with 4. And let me make that a little bit bigger. And the next one's going to be 8. And then it's going to be 12. And then it's going to be 6. Oh, wait a minute. Look what I found. I found here that the smallest number that they share is 12. So that, right here, let me circle that. 12 and 12. So my LCM, my least common multiple, is 12, which means my denominator, which we also call our least common denominator, ooh, sorry, this is bad handwriting, guys, is going to be 12. So I have to change both those fractions so they have a denominator of 12. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So that means that I have to change both my fractions so they have a denominator of 12. So again, I have to ask myself, 6 times what equals 12? Well, 6 times 2 equals 12. So if I change the bottom by multiplying by 2, I have to change the top by doing the same thing. So I have to multiply the top by 2, which is 10. So this is 10 twelfths. Down here, 4 times what equals 12? 4 times 3 equals 12. So if I multiply the bottom by 3, I have to multiply the top by 3. So 2 times 3 is going to equal 6. Problem is going to be 10 twelfths minus 6 twelfths. So 10 minus 6 is going to be 4. So my numerator will be 4. And remember, your denominator stays the same. So my denominator will stay 12. And so my answer will be 4 twelfths. Carrie went to the circus. While he was there, he got a ½ pound of candy. His friend Joel ate 1/3 of a pound. How much of the candy was left for Carrie? All right. So we need to ask ourselves, what is the question asking us? And the question is asking us specifically how much of the candy was left. So one nice thing about that is it's going to be talking about subtraction, how much was left. So he had a ½ pound, so he started with a ½ pound, and his friend Joel ate 1/3 of a pound. Okay, so go ahead and solve that and bring your solution to your teacher center.